Greetings, travelers, and welcome to Hell. I'll be your guide this lovely evening. There are 7 fun facts which we are gonna talk about today, and I'm very excited to talk about. I hope you know all of them, but it's fine if you don't, because I am going to tell them to you, and then we're gonna talk about them, which is gonna be super fun. Monday's fact. Cats domesticated themselves. With farming came grain storage, and then rats, and then cats. Let's talk about this, because this is kind of important. First of all, where do we start? I guess the agricultural revolution about, I want to say 10,000, between 10,000 and 12,000 years ago. What happened was, instead of chasing after your food, humans figured out, wait, I can plant it, and then eat the plant, and then the plant is not gonna run away. Except the day here wasn't just humans. As it turns out, if you just leave a bunch of food lying around, other animals will wanna eat it too, not just humans. And this isn't even capped at just animals. If you don't take care of your food, it's gonna spoil and rotten because you have like bacteria and fungus and stuff that are gonna eat it. So there's a lot of stuff that wants to eat your food. Yes, your food in particular. I'm pointing at you, but you can't see it because I can't move my hands. And one of the animals that did the most amount of damage is rats, because rats love to eat grains. They're really good at getting into like food storage. So good, in fact, that in the ancient days, they used to have a concept called well, nowadays we call it biogenesis. I don't know if that's what they called it back in the day. It's called biogenesis. The idea is that animals just sort of appear. Like, if you have a warehouse that's full of grains, then rats are just gonna appear in there naturally. Nowadays we know that's not true because mobs don't just spawn. This isn't Minecraft, this is real life. But rats do in fact have a nasty habit of getting into grain storage. And how do you stop them? Well, you can't, because it's really hard. The thing needs to be isolated, which is really hard to build when you don't have today's technology. So instead, there came another solution. Just like how rats love to eat grain, there was something else that loved to eat the rats. That's right, cats. But the humans, it's not like the humans purposefully started putting the cats near where the rats are. Just like how the rats just started showing up once there was grain around, the cats just kind of started showing up once there were rats around. And then after enough time of living next to each other and, you know, like taking care of each other, the humans and the cats just started bonding. See, this is explicitly different than what happened with dogs. With dogs, what happened is that there weren't dogs, there were wolves, of course, and then the wolves, what do they eat? They eat meat, which is very hard to find. If a wolf is eating your meat, then that's a really, really bad thing, because you want to eat that meat. In general, it's thought that humans gave wolves the food. You know, there's like the classic image of the wolf slowly approaching the campfire while the human kind of left a little piece of meat out for the wolf to eat. This is not what happened with cats. Humans did not lure cats into spending time with them. The cats just showed up one day. Also, wolves are not evil. In a lot of stories and fairy tales and stuff, they're portrayed as evil. But it's not true. Wolves are just like predators. They're part of the food chain. If you get rid of wolves, you're gonna mess up the food chain. Because then there's gonna be nothing eating the plant eaters. And then the plant eaters are gonna eat all the plants. Real problem, by the way, rabbits are eating all the grass in Australia. Real freaking problem. I have played enough Resident Evil. They are pure evil. Anyway, let's pull the next fact, because I really stretched that one out. Zooplankton shines so that when something eats them, its belly shines too. Okay, so it's not all zooplankton. It's specifically the ones that are bioluminescent. The bioluminescent plankton that shines like that. The idea here is that a lot of fish in the very, very deep sea are transparent because there's no light there, and they want to be invisible. Just like how jellyfish are very hard to see in the water because they're transparent. So there are a lot of transparent fish, if a transparent fish eats a bioluminescent plankton and the plankton shines inside of its belly, then the fish is gonna shine because the light is gonna pass right through the fish. And then everyone is going to see that the fish is there. And then the light is going to draw the predators to it. It's not just one tactic that they have available to them. The shining inside of the belly is one way, which, by the way, has counters. For example, some fish specifically have like black stomachs, have a black lining on their stomach, so that when something shines inside of the stomach, the light wouldn't come out. But there are other uses for this ability. One of them is to do the same thing, but outside of the belly. As soon as something tries to eat you, the zooplankton just shines up in a mutual distraction sort of way. Where if you try to eat me, I'm gonna glow, I'm gonna scream really, really loudly, and then all the predators are gonna come here and they're gonna eat us both. So you better not mess with me. And another tactic that they can do is to just try and flash the fish. Something tries eating them, boom, flash of light. The fish is bedazzled, and then they escape. Not fast at all. In fact, the definition of a plankton is that they don't move by themselves. Yeah, zooplankton have a lot of tactics to not get eaten, because unfortunately, they cannot swim away. Because being a plankton means that you can only move with the tides, not the tides, you can only move with the waves of the ocean. So they have to find another method to escape by whales. Not just whales, fish, any filter feeder pretty much. There's a lot of stuff that eat planktons. I think this is enough for this fact. Red is invisible in the deep sea. So the reason why the ocean is blue is because seawater is really good at capturing red light. Also, the reason why the sky is blue. Red has shorter wavelength. Because it has shorter wavelengths, it's better at being absorbed. Generally stuff that has lower wavelength. Yeah, generally stuff that has lower wavelength is like better at being absorbed by stuff. And red is really good by being absorbed in the sky and in the seawater. Now, on the one hand, this means that if you look at an ocean, it's blue. On the other hand, this means that red light just doesn't really exist. Like, there's just not much red in the ocean. And remember, how do colors work? If you look at something, say you're looking at my model right now, and it's green. The reason why you see green is because green light is bouncing off my model. My model is eating all the lights except for green. And then that green is being bounced into your eyeballs. If there's no red light around because all the red light was eaten by the ocean, this means that you cannot see red because the red paint is just gonna absorb the other lights which exist, which are on the blue side of the spectrum. So yeah, that's why a lot of deep sea fish are in fact red, because red is invisible in the deep sea. You cannot see it. And this is also why, if you look at bioluminescent, at stuff that is bioluminescent in the water, it is almost always blue. You don't see stuff that is bioluminescent and red, because if they were red, their lights would be absorbed by the ocean, and so it wouldn't reach very far. That's why it's blue. Crazy. Not just red, also black is invisible in the deep sea because there's very low light. But I don't know, some fish were like, you know what, black is too edgy for me. I'd rather be red instead, put a little bit of color in my world. Same reason tigers are orange, their prey is red colorblind. I did not know that, that is really cool. That is really cool actually. But yeah, colors are very wonky in nature. Tiger camouflage is insanely interesting. It is, with how they have like those little eyes on the back of their ears. Very cool. The prey can't see orange and sees it as green. That is actually rather common for a lot of mammals. Mammals are not particularly gifted in color vision. There was a fun fact about this before. No, okay, so we didn't talk about this in Hell's Academy, but there was a fun fact about this before. The idea is that most mammals likely descend from a nocturnal ancestor. So there was this vat-like thing that was nocturnal, and it coexisted with the dinosaurs, and then the dinosaurs died, and so there was a lot of open niches now that the mammal could take over, and then they did. But because they started out as nocturnal, a lot of mammals just have like really bad color vision. Humans being able to see 3 colors have relatively good night color vision. Yeah, this is why a lot of mammals have like good low light vision where they can see well in the dark, and or also, but they cannot see very well in color. And also just like in general, they cannot see very well. Bird eyes are incredible. Freaking parrots see better than us. Yeah, man, birds have really good eyes. Mammals kinda don't. Next fact, sharks have a conveyor belt of teeth and can go through 50,000 teeth in their lifetime. That's terrifying. Why? I'll tell you why, actually. It's because sharks are so brutal and so forceful when they bite. They bite down so strongly that their teeth wear out very quickly. And so instead of having one set of teeth that they maintain, because of how much their teeth wear and tear, they just went screw it and just started making a whole lot more of them. Over time, the teeth go to the front, like get pushed to the front where they eventually fall out from overuse, and then the teeth in the back get pushed like the front. They lose a few teeth per hunting, sometimes like that. Yeah, why do you think shark tooth weapons are so common? It's because sharks leave their teeth everywhere. Every time they bite something, they bite down so strongly that they leave teeth in them. Yeah, it's because they bite down too powerfully. They're too strong, they're too brutal. Shark tooth weapons. Yeah, and shark tooth are crazy. They're usually serrated, means they have these like little edges in them that are supposed to be hard to remove and make a lot of holes into whatever it is that they're biting. So it's like a saw. Shark teeth don't let go. Shark teeth are, if they're gonna fall out, then like their goal is explicitly to remain in the thing. They're lodged very deep in there and they don't let go, and they cause a lot of bleeding, and they're horrible. Great as a weapon, not so much if you've been hit by them. Hawaiian and Samoan warriors used to make swords with hard, heavy wood handles and shark teeth or obsidian. Yeah, man, there's a ton of shark teeth everywhere because they keep losing them. Sharks are basically shark teeth factories. Let me see. Let's go to the next fact. Billions of deep sea creatures rise to the water surface every night to feed. Let's talk about this. This is actually the biggest migration of animals ever. It's called like the vertical something migration. It's like the biggest migration ever. Forget birds, forget bees, forget like spores or whatever. This tons of animals during the night will go from the deep seas where there's no light over to the shallower regions. Because, you know, during the night, there's no light in the shallower regions. And because they're optimized for a dark environment in which there's no light, they will do very well in the shallow regions. And the shallow regions have an advantage that the deep regions don't. There's food everywhere. Do you know how hard it is to find food in the deep end? Extremely. Because the sun doesn't reach that much down. So you don't get algae, you don't get plankton, you don't get the cool stuff. The only food that they have, two things. One, corpses from above, usually in the form of marine snow, which is like these white things that descend. The first one is the marine snow, and the second one is from hydrothermal vents. Hydrothermal vents spew out chemical soup, and some gnarly bacteria can eat it and turn it into food. And then you have things that eat the bacteria, and then you have things that eat the things that eat the bacteria. But yeah, these are basically the two sources of food that you have done. I mean, there are some planktons, but like they're rare. They're very rare. And actually, the algae that exists there is not normal algae. It's red algae. Why is it red and not green like the algae that you're probably thinking about? That's because green is not the best way to capture all the light. Green does not capture all the light. I mean, obviously it doesn't capture green light. Now, red light is less energetic. Yeah, red light is... Oh, sorry, I said earlier that red has shorter wavelength. I think red actually has a bigger wavelength. Right, the shorter the wavelength, the more energy. Green is kind of in the middle. Red has less energy, Because if you go from red, you go into like infrared and microwave and blah, blah, blah. While on the other side, if you go from blue, then you're gonna get into like ultraviolet and X-ray and the really powerful stuff. Green has some energy in it, whereas red has very little energy. This means that if you're green, you eat the if you're green, you don't eat the green light, but you eat the red light. And if you're red, then you eat the other light. The reason why plants are not red is because it's just too much. If they were red, they would eat too much sunlight. They can't handle all that energy. But on the other hand, on the deep end, there's very little light, so you kind of you make do. You take what you can, which is why you get stuff like brown algae and red algae, because they just eat all the high energy. They just eat all the high energy waves. Because they don't have a choice. Hang on. I needed to realize something. I needed to realize just how terrifying so many sea creatures rising to the water surface really is. Because I don't think you understand. When they first discovered this, they were in a submarine. There was a crew in a submarine that were using sonars to find enemy battleships, and they looked in their sonar and they saw something very strange at night. The seafloor was rising. Something was moving, something ginormous was moving in the water. Something which couldn't possibly be a fish. It's way too big. So either there's like a leviathan beneath them, or the seafloor was moving. Now, obviously, they didn't know what it was. We know what it was. What they saw, it wasn't a fish, singular. It was fish, plural, and plankton, and a bunch of other stuff, and a bunch of like organisms, all moving together. There was so many of them that when they picked it up on their sonar, they thought it was the seafloor. That's crazy. That just shows you just how many. It's billions with a freaking B. Let's bring the next fact. Is it time for the next fact? I think it's time for the next fact. Because grass has silica in it that can permanently damage teeth, many grazing animals have very long teeth. This is true. I don't know what else to say. This is true. A lot of animals will have, they have this like very long crowns. The crown is like the enamel part of the teeth. So like the silica, the thing about silica is that it's very tough. You know the toughness scale where diamonds are like a 10, where diamonds are like a 10? The way that the toughness scale works is that something can only scratch something else if it's harder than it, right? So like nothing can scratch a diamond except for another diamond, because diamonds are the hardest thing in the world. And glass, this is also why it's actually really hard to scratch glass. Of course, you can do it with like a piece of metal, but if you grab a piece of rock and try to scratch glass, it's likely not gonna succeed, because glass is very hard. But you know what also is very hard? Silica. Because silica is so hard, it's capable of scratching a lot of things, which means that it can tear into your body and do a lot of damage. One of the things that it can scratch is the enamel, which is the outer coating of the teeth. And this is why if you eat grass, your teeth are gonna wear out, and then eventually you're not longer gonna be able to use them, because the inner part are gonna get exposed, and that's painful as hell. I mean, technically you can still use them, it's just gonna be painful as hell. Don't eat grass, even as a joke. Do not eat anything that has silica in it. Other than that though, you're fine. Like, sure, the silica can tear a few parts in your stomach and mouth and whatnot, but like the silica is it's not digestible either, so it just kind of passes through your body and then you poop it out. And you know what you can also do? You can also be like a horse, and then you have very long crowns, so that way there's a lot of thing to wear down. I mean, it's not like the teeth needs to last forever, it just needs to last as long as the animal is alive, which animals do not tend to live for very long, unfortunately. Some animals have a conveyor belt of teeth, just like sharks do. See, that's why I put those two facts together, because they're related. Yeah, some animals will have a conveyor belt of teeth, where once the front ones tear down, then just there's another one that comes in to replace them. Because you can't really cure it. You can just either replace it or, well, I mean, you kind of can cure it. There are some animals that basically grow teeth their whole life. They just keep on growing the teeth. In the human case, if the damage is too much, you need fillings or even crowns or even full replacement. Yeah, rodents. Yeah, rodents' teeth just gonna grow forever. Which, I say forever like it's a long time, but rodents only live a couple of years. So I guess their teeth only grow for a couple of years. What is the next fact? Microbes combat extreme cold by using antifreeze proteins to stop ice crystals from growing. Right. What is the two biggest problems with cold? Why is it the things stop working when you freeze them? Why can't they just like freeze a human and then unfreeze them and they'll be fine? Well, you can do it with frogs actually. Some of them freeze in the winter and then thaw out in the spring. But you cannot do it for a human, and for a good reason. Two reasons actually. Well, I would assume there is more, but there's two main reasons. The first one is chemical reactions happen less when it's cold. This is kind of obvious if you know the physics behind it, because chemical reactions is just stuff running around and then they bump into each other and they do things. Temperature is how fast are molecules moving around. Obviously, if they move around less, then they're gonna interact with each other less, and then there's less chemical reactions happening. And some of those chemical reactions are very necessary to like live and not die. And when those things stop working, you die. And the second problem is that because most living beings are mostly water, whether that be bacteria, fungus, humans, jellyfish, whatever it is, like it's just water. It's almost always just water. Because of that, because there's so much water in there, you know what happens when water gets too cold? It turns into ice. And you know what ice does that water doesn't? It expands, which is very bad. And when it grows bigger, it can literally burst the cell by just becoming big. And not only will it burst the cell, but ice crystals have edges, sharp edges. If you're a bacteria and you can't manage your internal temperature, you can literally have an ice crystal that will start growing inside of you, and then it will just expand and poke holes into your membrane. And then all of your innards spill out and you die. What do you do? What do you do if you don't want to die? Great question. See, this is why there's something called antifreeze proteins. Some of their job, among other stuff, because they do a lot, is to stop ice crystals from growing. They will literally clump. They have a couple of reasons, but some of them is that they can literally just make a boundary around the ice crystal. They will literally just like clump around the ice crystal and physically stop it from interacting with the other water. Freezing usually doesn't happen all at once, because usually there are like temperature differences. Some areas are slightly hotter, some areas are slightly colder. The slightly colder areas are gonna freeze first, and then the temperature is gonna transfer to the other areas from there. So you wanna make sure that those areas don't do that. Hello Dragoon, you asked, if I were to freeze myself and get thawed out in 2000 years, will I be alive? No, as much as Futurama will be very cool if it was real. No, because you're dead. When you fall out, you're just a corpse, because the mechanisms in your body can't just kickstart after they stop working. In some animals and stuff, they can, as long as you don't get too cold. Like, if it reaches absolute zero, it's pretty much gone for most things. But some bacteria and the like can survive in very, very extreme temperatures. And especially viruses. Viruses are extremely good at surviving at low temperatures. Because some viruses don't have like internal mechanisms. So you know how your cell is like doing stuff to remain alive? Some viruses don't. Some viruses are literally just like a protein case that surrounds a piece of RNA. This means that if they get frozen and don't change, and then they fall out, literally nothing changed, because they don't stop working because they never worked in the first place. Literally the definition of you can't die, you can't kill something that isn't alive. And honestly, that's scary as hell. This is it for the fun fact section of Health Academy today.